a roadmap.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because you have 9 steps and it can totally be like that. Yeah. The value of all of these things is people are here, people want to be here. Most of them, they don't have a map, right? And they're just walking, hiking, hoping they'll get to the right place. So you're basically being like, hey, hold on, like, are you trying to go there? Like, yeah, yeah, I am. Oh, did you leave a while ago and you've been trying to figure it out? Yeah, yeah. And let me guess, you tried a bunch of things and it still didn't get you there. Like, yeah, how do you know? Like, I get it. How about I give you, look, look, look. So you want to go here, right? We're here. So here's how we're going to guarantee that you get there. First, you're going to go here. And then once you get here, you're going to have all of these things, right? Then you're going to go here. That's step two. And once you get there, you're going to have all of these things and you won't have to deal with all of those things. And then this, then this, then this. Like, oh, fuck, okay, I see it now. I feel that if I follow this plan, this map that you're laying out for me, I'm way more likely to get there. Great. Can I hop in your car?
Yeah.
That's when they buy. When hopping in your car feels like more optimal decision than staying in their car.
It's so meta because like that's what we help them with
Bingo.
is creating that map in the car.
Yeah.
And so we just for us to have our own makes
Which
yeah,
is the goal again, because what you're doing to sell the thing becomes what you're teaching,
yes. Yes, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
That's what makes it meta.
Yeah.
The meta to me is like the most orgasmic thing in business.
Us too. We love it.
So to me, that's also a sign. I call it proof of God. It's a sign that we're operating at mathematical perfection.
Can you expand?
The highest level of efficiency is pure mathematical perfection because there's no waste, and waste is created by dissonance. So if I have, like, to me having to create a bunch of marketing content to get clients is evidence that I'm not thinking about it correctly. It's that I'm off in some way. Because my content should be my life. My content should be the thing that I'm doing. Because if I have to like be like, oh shit, I gotta go do that thing, like takes energy.
Makes sense.
And that's why, I on one level respect all these people who, you know, create a lot of content and like gain like massive audiences and all that stuff. But another part of me is like, I want to find the eye of the needle in terms of business where nothing I'm doing is for the sake of a means to an end. It's all implicitly extremely and exquisitely valuable. That's how we get paid to exist. Like me uh spending an hour scripting a YouTube video to go and record it at a studio, and you know, I'm not I wouldn't do that anyway. So I'm not if that's the way I'm running, then I'm not at paid to exist. There's still strategy happening where I'm trying to engineer an outcome. So to me, like that is it's the juiciest fruit of the universe when it comes to business. When the way we engineer the business is so meta, because when we do the thing that allows us to sell the thing, like it's all one thing. It's the non-duality of business.
Yeah. It's like the best people who like teach sales the best, like basically they shouldn't even have to sell. Or like
Right.
the best marketers, like
Yeah.
shouldn't have to do extra marketing. Like
Right.
so I like yeah. Or like if you're selling process creation, your process should be so good that
Yeah.
there's nothing to sell because people
Right.
see the process and it all makes sense and
Right.
they're taught how to do a process just by seeing your process and
Right.
yeah.
Their experience becomes the proof point for the product.
I
And
love that
that's why I
concept.
don't want you guys to be expert marketers or salespeople or need to become expert marketers or salespeople. actually everything we do is become better at your craft,
Better at yourself. Like just be
better at
better at,
yourself.
or like
Yeah,
be more you.
more you, exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you're the most you and you're playing your music to the fullest extent,
Yeah.
then
It's done.
the crowd is gonna form around you.
Yeah.
I once had like a really, really, really epic mushroom trip in Central Park in New York City. And it was just like a series of serendipity and these little vignettes. And there's this one place called the Fountain, and there's a fountain, and then there are these steps, and then there's this underground sort of open air chamber that you can walk through to the other side. And this chamber has like 100 pillars. So it's a really cool like stretch. And peaking on mushrooms, I'm with my one of my exes and a friend, and it's a it's a winter day. It's sunny, and there's people around. It's a Sunday. Um, and then suddenly this woman who's dressed as a ballerina walks over to the top of the fountain, and no one pays her any attention. And then she takes this little speaker system and puts it down. She starts singing Imagine by John Lennon. And as she's singing Imagine by John Lennon, she starts dancing. And I watch in slow motion as, these like 100 people strewn about, like doing their own thing, having conversations, their attention being totally focused on themselves and each other. Slowly, like the voices recede and people turn, and there's these, maybe 150 people all standing where they were, but in this sumptuous suspension of time. And everyone's paying exquisite and full undivided attention to this ballerina who's dancing with so much grace and singing Imagine. And it's like the entire place, everyone was in a trance, just captivated, spellbound. Of course, on mushrooms, this was like, it was blowing my mind to smithereens. Funny enough, what happened next was, so this is happening totally independent of what's about to happen next. So she finishes her song, okay, and next to us, there's a man in a one of those red puffer jackets, and a woman next to him. And we're at the top of these steps, and then there are, all the people strewn about. Suddenly, one of the people in the crowd gets up and takes this thing and starts playing this song, and then two of the people start dancing to the song, and then two more people join them, and over the course of the next like 30 seconds, there's about 50 of those people dancing in perfect synchronization. It's the song, I don't know who sings it, I Want to Marry You. And like a little bit before the chorus, the guy who was standing next to us jumps in to the head of this, what I realized eventually was a flash mob that he had created. And the song ends with I Want to Marry You, and he drops to one knee, like literally 2 feet away. And this woman is standing here and he's proposing to her.
Oh my God.
And again, like the whole place is like completely, completely spellbound. And I say this to illustrate this idea that we worry so much, we get so wound up. But if we just remind ourselves that the only thing we need to do is play our music, sing our song, if that's the thing that we just keep coming back to and focus on, and of course we have the right economic engine to structure how we exchange energy with everyone else, everything else just melts away. And it gets to be just the most incredible, exquisite experience of life.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks for listening. I haven't thought of this for so long.
And it's like, it can just even go deeper. Like even just the song. Imagine John Lennon. John Lennon, like, what was he doing? He was literally channeling a message from whatever God, source, universe at that
Yeah.
time that like the world needed. The world needed it so badly they killed him for it.
Yeah.
And like, what was this woman doing? She was just like in her heart, in her soul, in her body, like rechanneling that message in her own unique way. And it's like people who it's just undeniable. Like you see her, it's like this is. We need more of that.
Yeah.
Like I need that. What do you have that I like? Like how can I attune to this energy in my life in my way?
Yeah.
And yeah, it just zooms it out like for even what we were just talking about, like that is what we help our people connect with. Like what is that unique energy signature that you have
Yeah.
that is going to just resonate with the rest of the world and bring people to you who need you, and how can you co-create a new energy signature that creates ripples of impact and positivity into the world. And so yeah, I appreciate that story.
Yeah, you nailed it. Like that's it. So this whole like I feel like we've quantum leaped in the last couple of conversations, but this feels really good. Like it feels like we're at the thing.
About that idea, like unique energy signature.
Yeah. Put a TM behind it and use it.
I like that term. Joe, feel free to jump in. I feel like we're just kind of
Oh,
playing and talking and
yeah.
exploring and
Hey, Joe. I wanted to add, I won't do a long psychedelic story, but it reminded me of this one. It was in ayahuasca ceremony. And it was like, typically you like hear music and then you respond to it, like you dance.
Yeah.
And it was this experience, there was no gap between the music and me. I was simultaneous with it. And it was just the total dissolution of any separate self. Like I was being danced.
Yeah.
Like I'm not the dancer. I was being danced. And it's just it's always stuck with me. Like I always think of it. And then just to make the point that like, we do have to like sing our song, but really like we just got to get out of the way. It's just always trying to come through. And I was going for a walk during this week and I was thinking about that. I really resonated with your thing of like build the an economic engine around your energy. And it's like I've always loved that idea. And it's like, man, just I was just saying to myself, it's just like just let it flow through. Just get out of the way. Just get out of the way. Like it's always like the water wants to flow through, like the rocks in a dam. Like
Yeah.
just take the rocks out, man. Like it can be easy. Like it can be simple. Um, if just wanted to share that.
Love that. I mean, so much of this feels like we create the right structure and then we try to get out of the way.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about this before. It's like ultimately there is nothing to do to get out of the way,
Yeah.
but like the frameworks help
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
to get to that point. Yeah, so on maybe going to some of the frameworks, one of the frameworks I liked from your workshop was I really like the principles part, how you were outlining that. And then
Yeah.
I started on my own. I have a whiteboard, so I've got the title. Yeah. And I really like that idea of just as they come to me, like adding them, editing them, refining them. And I think that's so much of what like a successful business is, and an aligned message like Matt was talking about, just like finding those principles that you really believe in, that you live, and then creating that ecosystem, like that sphere, like you talk about through the content. So yeah, I really like that, and obviously resonated a lot with your principles, which is yeah what attracted me to this in the first place. So yeah, that was one takeaway I really liked from your workshop.
That's really cool because, the way I think about it, the principles are how we create culture, transfer the algorithm that makes decisions. So when I share principles and you really like them, you resonate with them, you're resonating at the same to change your decision-making algorithm. And now we are resonating at the same frequency because we're using the same decision-making algorithm. And then as more people come in and do the same, now we are a network that's vibrating at the same frequency with the same set of values, with the same approach to life, the same kinds of desires and constraints, and we're sharing the same algorithm. And that's how we change the world. We change
Mm,
the world by replacing the algorithm that's running the systems.
flip
I
that
remember,
shit, honey. Flip that out. That's gold.
I remember you were talking about, like very early on, you were talking about you wanted the accelerator to act like a tuning fork. And then, yeah, I see it more and more. Like, I actually have a set of tuning forks, like that thing of, yeah, you hit one, if it's the same one, it'll go across the room even without being touched, right? So, yeah, and it's like that thing when everyone meditates at the same time and you set that
Yeah.
shared intention, it ripples out into the world. So, yeah, that's cool. That's the real why, right? Like that's your why. That's what
Yeah.
helps you, you know, you produce a lot, right? And then without that clear, deeper
Right.
why, which if you're like on the, everyone's on the spiritual path, but if you're like aware you're on the spiritual path, I think you kind of need like that real deep why. Otherwise it's quite, yeah, it's quite easy to justify not taking a lot of action. So yeah, yeah, love that.
It kind of frees you up as well when you choose to focus on one kind of person
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
because there's
It's
less decision fatigue in content creation.
yeah, yeah. It's like that thing of like name a song is way harder than like name a Michael Jackson song.
Right.
There's like too many things to choose from.
Yeah, and that's a power leak, right? That's a mind power leak. So in my world, like that, that would be a classic grade A mind power leak because there's too many variables instead of it just being one constant. Like
Yeah,
this is
like
who I'm talking to.
yes. Yeah, like a reason like a non-negotiable is so valuable because you don't
Yeah,
have to negotiate with yourself on
right.
a daily basis. It's just
Bingo.
it's done.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it doesn't
So
take energy.
yeah, exactly. It's automated. It's like kind of a system.
And I think that's the only time we move from uh unconscious competence to improvisation. Like we need the automation to go into improvisation. And most
Mm.
people, they never reach the highest level of mastery is because they still do it in a way that requires energy and it requires them to make decisions and choices and think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no bandwidth left over to create on top of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting
Um,
greedy here. I want you guys to be in such a state of flow that there is no doing happening. And the only way that's possible is if you're not thinking when you start creating, like, okay, like, who is this for? Like, is this for this kind of person, this kind of person, this kind? That's going to take you out of flow.
yes, yes. And the only way to do that, right, is to it has to be to the former version of you.
100%. Because then only then is it meta.
Yes, yes. Because I've gotten away from like, is it entrepreneurs? Is it like businessmen? Is it like fucking who cares? Like they're just choosing themselves
Yeah.
because it's not even about that.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with that. It's
Yeah.
just like they resonate with the message and
Yeah.
they want a similar result. Yeah, it really doesn't matter if like they're an entrepreneur, a fucking
Right.
agent, like, it does
That's
not.
not the that's not the dimension in through which you slice the market.
Yeah,
The traditional coaching, business building, uh, recommendation is generally slicing the market based on financial ability and economic capacity. We don't do that unless that's something like very, very, very critical to what we're selling. For most
Yes.
people, it's much better to slice the market based on their progression from where we once were and where we got to. A to B transformational journey that's very valuable and desirable for them, and not trying to jam in a financial qualification to segment and architect our delivery, pricing, offers, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because even
Because
for the
that,
$100 offers, like there's going to be people who are very, very, very wealthy who will buy $100 offers, the workshops.
yeah, because that was another little bit of dissonance I used to feel is like, like it sells, it works well, but like fitness for like entrepreneurs, but it's like it's the same thing as you would just any high stress person. Like the fact that there are not, lots of people who aren't entrepreneurs travel and have stressful
Yeah.
things and everything like that. So it's obviously there's someone who has like, like a college kid or something. Like obviously like
Yeah.
that's super different. But yeah, that kind of felt like unnecessarily forced to like scale it down.
The only thing worse than that is fitness for seven-figure entrepreneurs. Like,
Yeah.
what does that have? And it's so blatant. It's like I'm trying
That's
to
just purely
qualify
for them.
for.
Shake my head. I hate that so much. So dumb.
Yeah. That's just like, yeah, it's purely for it's great for their side of the street.
Right.
And, um, yeah.
It's like you gotta be dumb to buy from that person to know that like fitness is not like it's fitness the specificity of fitness is not it doesn't specify it's not in that cat like you don't cut the cross section by that category like
Yeah.
yeah
Like,
it doesn't make sense.
yeah. Yeah. So, and yeah, that was another cool thing in terms of, because yeah, this is a message that I enjoy having just repeated plenty of times in terms of the economic engine around your energy.
Yeah.
That idea of, it's like if you want everyone to like you, no one will love you. And then
Yeah.
you miss out on those people that really, like you said, like the power law thing, like they'll be with you for life. Like they really, the raving fan.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather have a business like that, like the 100 true fans or 1,000 true fans.
Yeah.
That's much more fulfilling. Because you're really getting to give your full value and gift to the people who can really see you, and
Yeah.
then you see them as well. So that's really important for everyone, and for me, I really like that a lot. Yes, yes, yeah. And then in terms of like the delivery thing, could you see that working for me? In terms of it does reduce like the cognitive dissonance in people's mind when they can like see clearly. But I also think if you really like I've bought before, I was part like I bought when I signed up for the accelerator because like I recognize quality. So I think certain people also buy because it's like, oh, like not everyone's buying out of just like that frustrated state. Like
Yeah.
the best clients actually buy out of, man, like this is good. I want to feel more of this.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I like that idea.
Yeah. Those are the best clients.
Yeah.
You're getting
Plus,
off on it
versus, but
just as much as you are.
yes, 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 exactly. The real tribe building. Yeah. Mm. That's a much cooler way than like calling out, are you a,
Fitness for seven-figure entrepreneurs.
yeah, that's much cooler. So there's going to be some market for it.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, the market sophistication is,
I mean, we're selling to a very tiny tranche of the market that's way more self-aware and sophisticated, though.
yeah,
Like the
yeah,
general people, the general normal person actually people probably do it because it works, I imagine. You know, I think that if they're positioning as fitness for seven-figure entrepreneurs, then, and I know a few people who are huge who do that, it's probably working for them, for the masses,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we don't necessarily want the masses. Like, we're playing a different game where we want the level of resonance that makes grown men weep with tears of joy. Like anything
Yes.
less is like, I'm not getting out of bed for that. Like this call for me, talking to both of you and having the conversation that we're having today, it's everything. Because this is how I want to feel all the fucking time. I just want to talk to people like you and have conversations like these and just fucking jam, you know?
Like nothing else like feeds you all the way deep.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like eating like processed food. You kind of get the, yeah, you get like the quick,
yeah,
you know, fix, but there's not like that
yeah,
deep saturation. Yeah. And there's really no going back. It's like Ram Dass said, he was like into really into baseball cards, and then like a beautiful girl moves in next door, and then all of a sudden, like the baseball cards are never as interesting again. It's just like that. There's no going back once you're tasted something
yeah,
deeper.
yeah.
Mm.
And that's why to attract more people like that, we go really deep into ourselves to
Yeah,
understand what turns us on and who
yeah,
turns us on. And
yeah,
so the even our siren call to that kind of person is so deep. Like we went so deep in describing this person, so they feel so deeply understood. And when they feel that deeply connected to you, like they're working with someone else or comparing you to someone else is not even like a thought. It doesn't exist because you're the only one.
yeah. No one can compete with you at being you. That's the ultimate meta. It's like kind of like point of incarnating into a body is to dissolve everything you're not, fully express oneself. So then you do that, and then you're attracting people in like behind you a few steps. So it's like, yeah, absolutely like universal meta. It's
Mm-hmm.
like,
We,
yeah,
me and Chad thought we had the ultimate meta until we met Ani. We're like, damn it, you out metaed us. We didn't know someone like that existed.
yeah.
That's why we're here.
God is the ultimate meta
God's the
strategist.
ultimate. Yeah,
He is, yeah. But what a
Uh,
fun game, right? Like
it
we just try
is.
to
It's the
out meta
best.
each other.
We love it.
Like
yeah,
I wonder if anyone's getting off on the service delivery piece as much as we do.
yeah, it's the best. It's like
It,
I enjoy this. Sometimes I kind of feel like, oh man, like lighten up and like just get lost in it. And then sometimes I'm like, fuck, yeah, the point is, fuck, the point's to get lost. So let me get lost. That's like, yeah. But ultimately, the pull is like so strong. It's it's not a choice.
and I think that's what creates that vortex around each of you. It's like that magnetic field, the gravitational field, and the right people just, you know, they're attracted.
Yeah, yeah,
The other thing that I find really interesting is that we all have a certain unique timing. So we all have a unique relationship with timing in all the different areas. So there is timing in where on the prospect's journey are they best suited to come into your container. And we cannot actually create our timing with enough self-awareness. So notice that the timing that I over the past whatever bunch of workshops that I keep trying to create is people who have tried the old model and it's required them to pay a cost that they're not really willing to pay anymore. And that is a certain point in time in someone's journey. Like it that message is not going to make sense to someone who's just starting out. It's not going to make sense to someone for whom the traditional way of doing stuff is working, right? Like they're making a decent amount of money and they're okay. Like it's just not going to resonate. But it's going to resonate a lot more with the person who has been in the game, they've tried a bunch of stuff, they know who they are, and they can feel when something is aligned and when something is not. So
Yeah.
that like that time is also a dimension. People are so obsessed with the money dimension to slice the market, they just completely ignore the time dimension. And
Mm.
so this is one of those fractals that you can't feature enough in everything you do, in emails and content, like workshop stuff. Like the more you make this part of the fabric of everything, the more the amount of empathy that they feel with you like just skyrockets exponentially.
Could
Because
you give just a couple examples? Because
yeah,
like, sort of like clicks in my brain, like how you would weave it in.
the notice like in all the workshops, I talk about the problem or why what they're doing now isn't working, but I contextualize it in a specific way because speak, I could point to a bunch of different things, and within each of those things, I could point to it in different ways. But the way I do it, it's always like, you know, paraphrase, it's like this, your current way of doing things is not leading to what you want.
Yeah. So that's your one for you.
So
Yeah.
it becomes infused in every message,
Yeah.
right?
And it also like goes like, it's kind of like if you really nail these principles, it's like I feel like these principles is going to be like such a key thing.
Yeah.
Like that is really just going to like indoctrinate the audience into it. Because like it, like the principle, like your principles would have been based on your own value shift moments throughout
Bingo.
your
It implicitly includes the timing and the value shift
life.
because this is uh, the value set representation that you're giving them an opportunity to step into, right? Because typically they're feeling the dissonance from with the value set that they've been occupying, but they haven't really stepped on to a new one. So when you show up and you put that in front of them and they say like, oh, interesting, like that actually feels really good in my body. That could be the new platform that I live life based on.
Mm. Yeah, that's cool. That's like giving them, they're in a bit of an identity crisis, and then we're
Yeah.
giving them this new aspirational identity that they can
Right.
live into. It's great.
And when that's congruent with who we already are, that's when it becomes truly meta and effortless because we don't have to pretend to be someone else to demonstrate embodiment of those principles.
Yeah, it's great. I mean that yeah, that's a huge energy leap to come kind of back around. Like, yeah, man. I remember even like sometimes on my phone I scroll through like back in the day, me like filming this video, and it's like I'm like putting on this voice of like who do I need to be? Like what do I need to say? It was draining. Like I remember after that, like, man, fucking like I'd done a workout, like proper drained. Yeah, it's like, man, it's not sustainable. It's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really hit. Not really. Well, I guess sometimes you get people who are, they're wearing a mask themselves and then, but like not the great, not like the real connection.
Yeah. The people wearing a mask will typically choose other people who wear a mask.
Yeah, that's why like the monkey see, monkey do thing, because like that's most of the market.
Yeah.
And it's like there's way more people, who are not only wearing masks, they think they are their mask.
Yeah.
So then if it's like you copy everyone else and it's like, okay, this mask is making money. And then you fucking forget about your energy. That's like, man, the biggest thing I've gotten from being in the accelerator has honestly been seeing how consistent and committed you are to the message. And it's like, honestly, that, because that's always been my thing. Like, jump back and forth. It's sort of
Mm,
like, like I mentioned this the other day. I've been listening to heaps of Muji,
yeah.
his podcast, Satsang with Muji, and every podcast is the same. He just records his satsang. People come in, and then they think they have a problem, and he's like, "You don't have a problem. Your sense of self is the problem." It's just that, and he just repeats it. That's his message, and then people just come in, and then like, "Oh yeah, I feel good," and like this call is that for me. It's like, oh, is this right? Is this like, should I change to this thing? Like, is this the way? And then it's like, you're just like, yes, bro, just, do this thing. And like, that is honestly, that's, yeah, great. Like every exposure helps me.
Yeah, and the tuning fork is back to your highest truth. And, I'll give you more credit. Like, it's a process of constant refinement, right? And so the goal is always like, how do I help you become the most you? And when you're the most you, then your offerings to the world are the most yours and a truer reflection of you, which means it will take the least amount of energy for you to maintain that and grow that. And you'll have the maximum amount of enjoyment because it's so innate, so natural, it's so effortless, so you. And that's the jackpot. But it's a progressive series of jackpots where we keep getting closer and closer and closer. But actually, this is a mathematical function that, you know, as joy and fun and authenticity all tend to infinity, the distance tends to zero. So we never really fully become that till we die. It's
Mm.
actually the moment of death that collapses the whole function. But until then, the best we can do is, get closer and closer and closer. So if the distance keeps getting cut in half, I never actually reached there ever. But
Yeah.
it's that point of orientation that I can live my life using where that's my orientation. If that's my orientation, this mathematical function produces the most exquisite life. And when that hit me, it was like, oh, if I can help other people do that, like that is the deepest service that I can offer based on who I am, because that's all I care about for myself and the world. So me doing that is my version of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Trojan horsing spirituality. Yeah, man. It's great. It's great.
And this
Just,
this is your version of that. What,
yeah.
that mechanism that you painted out.
100%.
Because you help
That's,
people you help people do that by doing it,
yeah, being it.
by
Mm.
being it. Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, it's great. And I really resonate. Like I can speak to certain, just like the younger version of me, like dudes, yeah, super in their head and like they want to be fit and successful. And yeah, it's great. So like each one of us resonates the most with like, we can help certain groups of people in a way that no one else can.
it's one of those things that sometimes you only see it when you look back at what you've done,
Totally.
and you have been inching closer and closer, right? Like it's like approaching more and more and more. For Joe, it's he
And
shared a little bit about, yeah,
connecting back to this too, I was thinking about like, all right, what are like some things that I really want to do in my like that I need to do in the next 3 to 3 years?
yeah,
Like, I need to train to surf a really big wave. I need to train Muay Thai and actually have a fight. And I was thinking through like, why are these the things that like
yeah,
will have to do? It's because I want to know who I am. Like I need to test who I am and what I'm made out of,
yeah,
like what I'm made of in these scenarios. And it came together. It's like coming together. It's like, okay, if I put myself in these situations, like I actually have a deeper understanding of who I am and can live in greater alignment with
yeah,
that unique energy when
yeah.
I've tested the edges. And so that does it feels like it's coming together.
And all of that becomes content.
Yes.
Like your journey becomes the thing that sells people into the thing.
Feels good. Feels right.
I'm gonna have to just title this call meta, and that's it. Like,
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
I have like an infinite rabbit hole. It's like a glitch in the matrix, this meta thing. You can just keep like going more and more meta. It's great though.
it's like an infinite game. Seems like
Mm.
we can just keep getting better, keep getting
The
better.
problem is at one point you just merge and like you just disintegrate. You just disintegrate, but you're actually just integrating into the fabric of the universe. So if we keep going, we'll just eventually disappear.
Because you're not
Mm.
even at that point trying to be meta, you just are.
Exactly.
Concept of meta is done. Yeah. It's like, have you heard that I really like this concept. There's like the exhale and the inhale of God.
Mm,
Turn like kind of like Big Bang's kind of like that.
yeah.
So like the exhale of God, it's like anti-meta. Like you're getting
this
more
is
more separate.
this
Yeah.
is like this is enlightenment through business is like what this is. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
this is like enlightenment through business.
You know what's funny?
Enlightenment enlightenment through economics. Ani,
Like
that's
six years ago at a mastermind, you know David Gonzalez? He runs this IMP mastermind. It was like a room full of heavy hitters in the business, and I was like, how do I introduce myself? I was like, oh, I help entrepreneurs reach enlightenment through business. And it took me like a long time to like actually live into that to my standard.
And is that because like, yeah, and I also appreciate
that's
you.
it. That's it. That's so it.
Like, what was the reason it took you so long? Because you're like, man, people just won't get it.
Yeah, I second guessed and questioned. I tortured myself for so long because I didn't have like a lot of examples of people who were doing what I had in my vision. So
Mm.
I had to make a lot of mistakes and, you know, create a lot of suffering for myself to like figure out how to first be it and then from that place teach it.
Yeah, it's like that in the Kabbalion. They say like, don't cast pearls before swine as well. There's a certain amount of courage it takes to really preach the message of dissolution of the ego construct because people think they are that.
Right.
And so talking about the death of that, they treat it like a death. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of, I mean, it makes, yeah, it requires courage to like really commit to that in in like in public.
You know what's funny? That's where all my churn comes from. So everyone who leaves the accelerator leaves because they don't really want to step into the void. It
Yeah.
feels too scary and it's too confronting.
Yep, we know that all too well on our side too.
Like, to each their own, like everyone gets to choose what journey they want to take. But, you know, to me, the quality of this conversation, this jam session, to me is the ultimate validation that like, okay, I'm glad I held that standard and vision for myself and didn't settle for less because everyone should feel this good in their business. Like it should feel so good that it feels illegal.
Yeah, it's like this might have been the most like low key but fun and enlightening like coaching call that I've been a recipient to like ever. And yeah, just like anchoring into that as gold standard, new gold standard of how this gets to be is just like amazing.
Yeah, I've also found that like man, just like raise the standards for the kind of people you want to attract. Like being in like the how aligned the people are in here and just how like yeah, just like how like high the caliber of people are in here and how everyone's like resonant at that similar frequency. That also is like it's aspirational
Hmm.
and inspirational. Yeah.
Yeah, the resonance is through the roof. I think that's when also it goes from being an individual game to a network effect, because the network effect in these kinds of businesses is the resonance, the combined resonance of everyone in the network. And then it creates a gravitational force around the business because it's like
Yeah,
nodes in the Bitcoin network.
yeah, becomes greater than the sum of its parts. This is where you it is true that thing of like it's like a culture, like there's elements of kind of cultish, like on the outside,
Yeah.
people be like, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? Or like, why are you so into all this stuff? It's like, yeah, it's I mean, just like true, yeah, like when you really fully believe in something that other people don't understand, like it does look crazy. But that's the it's that funny thing of like it's actually the only thing that's real. And then everything else is the falsehood.
Yeah. It's a kind of reverse cult because instead of
Mm.
centralized authority and leader holding all the power, it's, you know, like everyone stepping into their own power and their own inner authority as their
Yeah,
leader.
yeah, yeah. I think that's always like a great thing I remember is like you judge a great leader not by like how they lead, but how many leaders they produce. It's a good metric.
Yeah, and everyone here is, an absolutely terrific leader in the world. I think it's a different relationship and energy too when it's leader to leader compared to leader to follower.
Huge.
There's a whole thing that came through in um, my second last ayahuasca ceremony where I basically received the protocol layer for how to interact with other sovereign entities. Each of you is a sovereign entity, and there's a protocol how we interact. And in the computer world, it's called an API, and it's an automated protocol interface. So two computers, for them to talk to each other, they need to have a shared set of agreements and language, which is the protocol. So same thing with, contracts, the way contracts work. The contract is a protocol for how the two parties are gonna engage. So we need that for us to interact with other powerful entities. The first thing in that is actually seeing everyone else as a powerful entity, not, you know, seeing them as victims or as not capable of owning and creating their reality. And then, the first piece of the protocol is respect. We don't have power over each other. We're not playing a game of hierarchy. We respect each other's autonomy, individuality, sovereignty, self-authorship. And that changes the texture of the relationship. There's no like talking down. There's also no rescuing. It only feels good if I don't see you like a victim who needs my help. And also that takes away the codependency. You don't need me, right? There's not a relationship of need. There's no scarcity in that sense. This is a mutual choice that is mutually enriching and that allows each of us to be more in our power. So it increases choice. It's based on choice. It increases personal power, not decrease it. And it's based on trust and alignment. So there's a rule set on how we can interface with other powerful entities. And when we use that, then it creates a very high level of resonance in that relationship. That can also be one to many, right? We can yell at people in our content and shame them and put them in a trauma response, or we can see them in their power and empower them. And, so that's something very, very, very important to me. That's not possible in a mass market container or offering to the same extent. The intention can be there, but it's hard to play out the nuances. But that's another big decision we get to make, which is is our container for other leaders, or are we speaking to people who want a leader to follow? Because those are two different people. It's a completely different psychology and different, you know, this set of desires and needs. And
Yeah, arguably this has been that's been the biggest. I know there's been like 40 big things, but like that probably top three biggest things that we've taken away from Accelerator that's changed our business and outlook on everything
which part, like,
is viewing and speaking to, and it was removing codependency, like removing attachment, like actually having no attachment to our clients, more love than ever, but no attachment, and like actively viewing them all as like powerful and in charge of their own lives and totally sovereign. And it's not our word is right. It's like just it's the amount we preface now, the preface now are like my feedback with like you can do whatever you want, like it's totally up to you. It's just it feels so much better, it feels more, and I think it comes out more powerfully when there's that known understanding of like self responsibility on their side. And it just yeah, it's made everything so much better.
so much lighter because there's so much less pressure we have to take on.
Totally.
And that, I really think that's one of the keys to scaling because most people, when they scale, that weight scales with that.
I felt it. Totally.
Oof, it's a lot of responsibility to carry. And it's funny, like, with some entrepreneurs who are doing like 8, 9 figures, I teach this in with respect to their relationship with their employees and leadership team because they're so used to the servant leader, leader eats last, all those paradigms that are basically a
Mhm.
self-sacrificial model and that are designed to see employees and team as you take responsibility for and carry on your back versus, hey, this is a powerful sovereign being that's choosing to engage in this agreement field with me in the context of this geometry that is the business and their team and their department. And, that doesn't make them any less than me or vice versa. I'm not, I don't own the responsibility for them and their well-being and their families and everything. I treat that person as a sovereign, powerful adult. And most times when there's leadership issues, it's because the leader is, there's a violation of boundaries and sovereignty happening. And then it's like messy and it's heavy and causes all these issues. They're either helpless or they don't want to be held accountable and they're sort of oppositional and defiant. And, I intentionally go there, right, with clients in session where I'm offering myself as a parent figure that they can project on to for us to do the
Mhm.
process work. But that has to be an intentional
Consciously,
choice. Yeah,
consciously, he is consciously.
right. It's not like
Yeah,
a global always on setting
yeah,
where they're always the child and I'm always the
yeah,
parent, so I can feel a sense of control and power over someone else, which I didn't feel as a kid.
yeah.
And this whole thing is a warped way of me like protecting my childhood wounds and
Oh, it's crazy.
because that's how most people use
I
their business.
know. Geez, this industry just needs cleaning, like
You know,
energy,
dad
like a giant
dad didn't
energetic
approve.
cleaning.
Yeah, dad didn't approve of me, so now I'm gonna seek validation on Instagram from the 24,000 people who follow me. And if they give me enough likes, then I'll finally be good enough for dad.
And while doing that, attracting people with the same wounds who are
Totally,
looking at you, who are looking
totally,
at you as dad. So you have to play
totally.
dad while you're trying to prove to dad. Oh man,
It's so meta.
fucked, fucked.
So meta.
Well, I'm glad we're here and doing it
Yeah.
this way. Thank you, honey.
My pleasure. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, you guys are like equal creators of this as me, right? That's the only thing it can work. And that's why this is a decentralized system, right? Because the sovereignty is in each of us, and we're always co-creating. And that's why these businesses are the closest approximation is the blockchain and crypto, because the Bitcoin runs based on a consensus mechanism. So we need a consensus in terms of what we're creating, and we all are holding the ledger, a copy of the ledger, and we're all holding ourselves to a shared standard, and that's what allows the magic to happen.
And we're all rewarded when we validate behaviors in alignment with the mutual agreement field.
Bingo.
I need to see an Ani coaching, crypto is coaching, coaching is crypto
Oh, it's
video.
coming. It's coming.
Okay. Because this is so cool. Like that stuck with me, that idea that, oh, okay, cool. When I'm on this call and I have a breakthrough that's in alignment with the progression of me understanding who I am and giving that value to humanity and unlocking energy and enlightening myself through business, that Joe gives me a pound. Like, and it's like Joe just solved the math problem that I put out through the transaction.
Yeah.
And or I did. Like, and there's that mutual reward through
Yeah.
the cryptocurrency that Ani is cultivating through this. And that concept is just, it's insane.
We all win, right?
Yeah,
We all win by operating in integrity and alignment with the principles.
exactly.
So that's why we need the principles to create that shared agreement field. And now we know how to contribute to the network and ourselves at
Yes.
the same time, because what the network wants is for each of you to win with yourselves. It's not a win-lose, it's a win-win. That's one of the principles.
Yeah.
The only way it can work. So everything is aligned in terms of incentives and what's to everyone and every individual's best interests.
That's too cool.
Like, this is a completely different model, in every sense of how to see business and how to build a business, right? It in my mind, it's the only thing that actually works in terms of being as much of a win for the founder as much as it would be for the team and as much it would be for the customers and clients and the world at large. Like, it's the only way to have a true positive sum game where there aren't some people winning at the expense of other people who are losing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just remove, like, you remove all of the inefficiency of any degree of strategy, manipulation, tactic. Like, yeah, it's why it's just yeah, it's just like there's actually like a superconductor. There's like actually no resistance
It's super fluid.
there's no resistance between the nodes
Yeah,
in the world and the clients and the coach. Yeah,
right.
it's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super fluidity in thermodynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you to both of you. It was
Thanks
a
to
little,
both of you. What a special conversation.
That was awesome. Love
Yeah.
that.
I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of value from this. How much they get to decide, but
Mhm.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Me too.
a lot of range.
Yeah, cool. Well, have a beautiful day. I love you both.